to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got top 10 number one draft picks in NFL history. Let's check this out.
First overall, greatness is demanded. And while some end up being busts, others become legends. This list alone accounts for 17 Super Bowl wins, 11 MVP awards, and a whole lot of insane moments. Good and bad. These are the top 10 number one draft picks in NFL history. In 2004, the San Diego Chargers selected Eli Manning first overall, but there was a problem. Eli made it very clear that he would never play for San Diego.
Why don't you want to play for the Chargers?
We're not really giving details right now. We just we've made our decision, and that's what we're sticking to.
Do y'all feel like, bro, something like that is gonna happen this year with like Shedeur? Cause let's say if he does get drafted to like the Browns or the Giants, like I don't think that's gonna happen. But let's say if that does happen. Does Deion step in and say he don't want to play for them, and then he gets traded to another team, or like I think some shit like that probably would happen.
Giants in exchange for Phillip Rivers and draft picks.
That is kind of crazy. That was kind of a win-win trade though.
Because Eli didn't just become the face of the franchise, he became a literal giant slayer. In 2007, he led one of the greatest upsets in NFL history, snapping the Patriots' perfect 18-0 season with a miracle drive.
That Patriots team was a god squad. Brady and
4 years later, he did it again.
And Randy Moss on the same team, nigga.
Another Super Bowl win against the Patriots and another Super Bowl MVP. All this from a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs with a 9-7 record. And that's what separates Manning from other quarterbacks who just missed this list. His clutch gene and how he always delivered in the ultimate pressure moments. Matthew Stafford could have easily been selected here. He carried a terrible Lions team for years. And when he finally got out of Detroit,
I was so happy for him
the LA Rams championship in 2021.
Very much
he didn't face a dynasty twice and walk away with 2 rings like Eli. Cam Newton also deserves a mention. The 2015 NFL MVP was a one-man highlight reel and one of the most electrifying dual-threat quarterbacks ever. But when he had his chance in Super Bowl 50, he came up short.
This play, finally, right? I think was this the play where he didn't jump on the football? I think it was.
He came up short.
That right there changed the whole tide of the game.
And finally, Andrew Luck, one of the smartest, most gifted quarterbacks we've ever seen. But injuries ended his career before he ever got a shot at cementing his legacy. All 3 of these quarterbacks,
I think Luck would still been playing if he didn't get hurt a lot.
But none of them made an impact on the NFL and have a legacy to match Manning's. He didn't just win when it was convenient. He took down the NFL's most dominant dynasty twice and cemented himself as one of the most clutch performers of all time. Now, when you think of some of the best number one overall picks, you probably don't think of offensive linemen. But Orlando Pace was just that dominant. Standing at 6'7" and tipping the scales at 325 pounds, Pace was an absolute wall. Drafted first overall by the St. Louis Rams, he had the rare combination of size, speed, and agility that left defenders stunned. He could bulldoze opponents in the run game and had the footwork to dance with the league's fastest edge rushers in pass protection. In his first full season as a starter, the Rams allowed just 29 sacks, a massive improvement from the 48 sacks given up the year before. And Pace's dominance continued to elevate the Rams' offense, which exploded into one of the most feared units in NFL history, the greatest show on turf. But here's what sets him apart. Without Pace anchoring the offensive line, the Rams likely don't win the Super Bowl in 1999 or become one of the most explosive offenses ever. That season, St. Louis led the league in scoring with 526 points. Kurt Warner threw for over 4,300 yards and 41 touchdowns, while Marshall Faulk racked up over 2,400 yards from scrimmage. But none of that happens without Pace paving the way. His protection allowed Warner time to execute deep throws.
Kurt Warner's not talked about enough
to break
either,
off jaw-dropping runs. Pace was different. He wasn't just dominant, he was a winner. His resume speaks for itself. 7 Pro Bowl selections, 3 first-team All-Pro honors, a Super Bowl title, and eventually a gold jacket as a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He even played a ridiculous streak of 154 consecutive games without missing a start, something nearly unheard of for a lineman taking brutal punishment every game. And we got to give an honorable mention here to another dominant tackle, Ron Yary. He anchored a Viking offense that reached 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s. His consistency and dominance for more than a decade made him a 6-time first-team All-Pro and a Hall of Famer. But on the other side of the line, Cleveland made a franchise-changing move in 2017 when they selected Myles Garrett with the first overall pick. Standing at 6'4" and weighing 272 pounds,
I still don't understand why the fuck he re-signed with them. Well, I do understand because like 40 mil a year, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money, but bro said he want to win a Super Bowl. He's not doing that in Cleveland, bro.
Speed and raw power.
He basically just wasting like 4 more years of his career.
Worst nightmare. From the
He could have
moment
got
he
traded
stepped
to
on
a
the
team
field,
like the
he's been a
Lions, the
game rat.
Commanders.
Double teams, chips, even
Which is
triple
crazy
teams.
to say
None of it
nowadays,
seems
I
to
ain't gonna
matter.
lie.
Since entering the
But-
league, Garrett has consistently terrorized offenses, recording double-digit sacks every season except his rookie year. In Week 3 of the 2021 season,
Miles
he
a dog.
obliterated the Chicago Bears offensive line, setting a Browns
I mean, that's not really
franchise
saying
record
much,
with
bro.
4.5 sacks in a single game.
4.5
That was just the beginning,
sacks?
because by Week 7 of the 2023 season against the Colts, Garrett wrote his name in NFL history, becoming the first player to record 14 or more sacks in 4 consecutive seasons. And he capped it off by
I ain't
winning
gonna lie, bro.
Defensive
He a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm
Player
gonna
of the
keep
Year,
it a buck,
a long
nigga.
overdue award for a player who had been haunting quarterbacks for years. In 2024, he became the 4th fastest player in history to reach 100 sacks and made his 4th All-Pro first team, already making a case as the best edge rusher to ever be selected first overall. Yes,
Nigga, I was
even
gonna
better than
celebrate
Hall
if
of
he
Famer
got
Leroy
traded,
Selmon,
bro.
who we've got to mention here. After being
Tired
drafted
of playing
first
that
in
nigga every year.
1976 by the
Twice a
Tampa
year.
Bay Bucks, which was the franchise's first ever draft pick at that, Selmon proved to be one of the best decisions they ever made. Despite the Bucks' early struggles, Selmon became a dominant force on defense, earning Defensive Player of the Year honors in 1979, 6 Pro Bowl selections, and eventually landing in the Hall of Fame. But Garrett has already surpassed that level of dominance, and after inking a new contract with the
Look,
Browns,
bro, look
that
at the
made him
size of this nigga arm, bro. This shit is not
the
human.
highest paid non-quarterback in
Bro's a
NFL
fucking
history,
alien,
Garrett's
bro.
story
Like,
is
I
far
refuse to
from
believe
finished.
he's
and
a
speaking
human,
of
gang.
far
Like,
from
real shit.
finished, all the madness of March is just getting started, which is why this episode of Blitzly makes the name buttoning down. We also favored an opportunity code with 100 Gamma 469 Boot Hill New Cutting Resource 1978 draft. When the Houston Oilers selected Earl Campbell first overall,
Campbell.
they didn't just draft a running back. They unleashed a wrecking ball on the NFL.
Oh my
At 5'11"
gosh.
and a draft a running back. They unleashed a
Damn.
wrecking ball on
Huh.
the NFL. At
Get that
5'11"
nigga in the
and a
chest,
rock-solid
man.
232 pounds, Campbell was pure muscle with a mission.
232 is
Bulldoze
crazy.
anyone in his path. And
At
that's
5'11"?
exactly what he did. Defenders who tried to tackle him often found themselves on the ground, wondering what just hit him. In just his rookie season, Campbell led the league with 1,450 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns, earning NFL Rookie of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year honors, while finishing second in MVP voting. Not too shabby for a first-year player. But here's the crazy part. His next season, he was even better. Campbell upped his game with
I think I remember hearing
1,697
about this.
rushing yards and 19
I ain't gonna lie.
touchdowns. Once again leading the league, but this time also taking home the NFL MVP award. And if you thought that was impressive, then buckle up. Because in 1980,
Bro, I feel like
he had the
I'm gonna
most
keep it a buck. Nowadays, bro, they need to just make a separate MVP award. Like there should be like a quarterback MVP and a like a non-quarterback MVP, like for running backs, receivers, even defensive players, bro. Because I feel like a lot of players nowadays, bro, are getting snubbed for MVP. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Saquon last year could have definitely been, you know what I'm saying, MVP, like real shit, bro. What he did for that Eagles team last season was insane. Who else? JJ Watt got snubbed a few years ago, bro. I feel like there's a lot of more players that got snubbed for MVP, like that are not quarterbacks, bro. So they need to start adding like different awards, bro. I'm gonna keep it about like a separate MVP award would do just fine. I'm gonna keep
dominant
it about
year of his career, racking up a
Does,
jaw-dropping 1,934 rushing yards, the second most in
I'm
season
tired
at
of
the
it being
time,
just a
and
QB
13
award at
touchdowns.
this point. I'm
That
keeping it
earned him
above,
his third straight rushing title and a third consecutive Offensive Player of the Year award. The man was simply unstoppable. Unfortunately, following his third year, his stats began to dip as the brutal punishment he dished out and received took a toll on his body. Still,
Dang.
few players
That's
in
why
NFL
running backs
history
don't
have ever
last
had
long in
such
NFL,
an
bro.
immediate and overwhelming impact. And none could physically embarrass defenders the way Campbell did. Even though his career stats don't tower over others, Campbell's peak alone earned him a spot in the Hall of Fame and on this list. But he's not the best running back to be drafted first overall. Before the controversies and courtrooms, O.J.
Oh, boy.
Simpson was simply the
That
juice.
boy O.J. Do
One
y'all
of the
think
most
he did it, bro?
electrifying players to ever step on an NFL field. Drafted first
I don't
overall
know.
by the Buffalo Bills in the
Cause what he did in
1969
that
NFL
interview, bro, when that girl opened the door, he acted like he was stabbing her. I don't know, bro. That shit seemed kind of shady to me. I'm gonna
Simpson
keep it a
wasn't
buck.
just fast, he was blazing. He had a rare blend of speed,
He was a
agility,
demon on the
and
field,
power.
though,
He
and
could
off the
outrun,
field.
outmaneuver, and overpower
I think he
defenders
did.
in a way few backs ever
don't know.
have. However,
Cause why would he go on a chase and try to get away if he didn't do it?
Great. It wasn't until 1972 when the Bills changed their offense and made him the centerpiece that everything changed. And boy, did it change? The very next year, OJ did something no one had ever done before. He broke the 2,000-yard barrier, finishing with 2,003 rushing yards in just 14 games. Let that sink in for a second. That's an average of 143 rushing yards per game.
What
a
the
stat
fuck?
that still sounds unreal. That historic season earned him NFL MVP honors and cemented his legacy as one of the greatest backs of all time. Over his 11-year career, he racked up 11,236 rushing yards, 61 rushing touchdowns, was a 5-time first-team All-Pro.
That helmet is a fucking safety hazard.
61 rushing touchdowns.
Like,
was a
how is it supposed to protect your face, gang?
5-time first-team All-Pro.
I couldn't play back
then.
then. I ain't gonna
rushing
lie,
champion. But as we all know,
that shit's
Simpson's
so
story
unsafe.
doesn't end on the football field. His life took a dark turn when legal troubles ruined his post-football career. But whether or not you believe he did it, something that's not up for debate is just how dominant OJ was on the football field. As we enter the top 5 number 1 draft picks in NFL history, we find ourselves at the 1989 NFL Draft. And when the Dallas Cowboys selected Troy Aikman, they weren't just drafting a quarterback, they were laying the foundation for a dynasty. But at first, it was ugly. Aikman's rookie season was a disaster. The Cowboys went 0-11 in games he started. But to make things worse, he threw 18 interceptions in those 11 games.
Damn!
By 1992, the rebuild was complete. And with Aikman leading the charge,
he a rookie though, but 18 picks is crazy. In 11 games?
Their offense, powered by Hall of Famers Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, was a nightmare for defenses.
That's a god squad.
At the center of it all was Aikman, the calm, accurate, and clutch quarterback who thrived under pressure. He wasn't the flashiest guy on the field, but he was efficient. And when the stakes were at their highest, he delivered. Aikman went 11-4 in the postseason, posting one of the highest playoff passer ratings of his era. And that's why he deserves to be this high on the list. Winning 3 Super Bowls as the face of one of the most iconic dynasties in NFL history is no easy feat. Unfortunately, concussions and injuries eventually took their toll, cutting his career shorter than it should have been. But by the time he hung up his cleats, Aikman had secured his place as the winningest quarterback in Cowboys history. Another all-time winner was Terry Bradshaw, drafted number 1 overall in the 1970 NFL Draft.
Didn't he just retire?
Raw talent, rocket arm, and swagger to lead a franchise. But here's the thing: much like Troy Aikman, it didn't start out all that great. His early seasons were rough, filled with interceptions, benchings, and a ton of doubts. Bradshaw looked like a bust at times, and the Pittsburgh media was brutal. And even his teammates doubted he was the right guy. But when it clicked, it really clicked. By the mid-1970s, Bradshaw was the fearless leader of one of the most dominant dynasties in NFL history. The Steelers won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years with Bradshaw at the helm. He was more than just a game manager. He was a game changer. Bradshaw delivered in the biggest moments, earning 2 Super Bowl MVP awards and claiming the league MVP in 1978. But what set Bradshaw apart wasn't just the stats, it was his clutch gene. He thrived under pressure, delivering in the biggest games and leading fourth-quarter comebacks when the Steelers needed it most. Bradshaw walked away as the first quarterback in NFL history to win 4 Super Bowls, a feat that put him in a league of his own. And while his career may have had its ups and downs, his legacy as the face of the Steelers' golden era and the sheer talent he had is what makes him so special. Now, onto the podium. When the Baltimore Colts selected John Elway with the number 1 pick in the 1983 NFL Draft, chaos erupted. Elway was a once-in-a-generation talent, an elite 2-sport athlete with a cannon for an arm and all the makings of a superstar. But there was one problem. He had no interest in playing for the Colts. He flat out refused to sign with them, even threatening to ditch the NFL entirely for a career in Major League Baseball. In a desperate move, the Colts traded him to the Denver Broncos. And the rest? Well, that's NFL history. From his very first
crazy,
game,
bro.
Elway
Him
proved
and
he was
Eli.
was advertised
Then they made a legacy. You know
jaw-dropping arm
what I'm saying, on
strength,
other
surgical
teams and
accuracy,
shit.
and the rare ability
That's
to
tough.
escape pressure with his
I want to know.
legs,
I want to know
making
how
him
the Chargers and Colts felt about that, bro. Seeing like how their careers panned out now, bro. I know they were punching walls in that
one
bitch.
of the most dynamic quarterbacks the league had ever seen. But Elway's
I would've
career
been
wasn't
heated,
all smooth
nigga.
sailing. He led the Broncos to 3 Super Bowls in the 80s, but walked away empty-handed each time. The losses were brutal, and the media labeled him as a quarterback who just couldn't win the big one. That narrative changed in the late 90s when Denver built a powerhouse around him. With Terrell Davis in the backfield and a dominant defense, Elway finally had the pieces he needed. In Super Bowl 32, he made one of the most iconic plays in NFL history, a helicopter spin into defenders on a critical third down run. That gutsy play helped the Broncos clinch the title, earning Elway his first ring. But he wasn't done. Just a year later, he was back in the Super Bowl, where he dominated, earning himself the Super Bowl MVP. But rather than attempting a three-peat, Elway decided to go out on top, announcing his retirement from football. John Elway finished his career with 51,475 passing yards, 300 touchdowns, and 148 career wins, making him one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in NFL history. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2004, but his legacy didn't stop there. As an executive for the Broncos, he helped build the team that won Super Bowl 50, proving he could lead Denver to championships both on and off the field. Now, you'd probably expect all three top guys on this list to be quarterbacks, because plain and simple, quarterback is the most important position in the game. However, defensive end Bruce Smith was so dominant, he deserves every bit of the number 2 spot on this list. Drafted number 1 overall in the 1985 NFL Draft by the Buffalo Bills, Smith was on a clear path to make history. Standing at 6'4" and 265 pounds, he was a freak of nature. His explosive first step, relentless motor, and sheer power made him virtually unblockable.
I ain't gonna lie, that spin
His
move was
stats
nasty.
backed that up. Over his career, Smith racked up 200 sacks, the most in NFL history, along with 8 first-team All-Pro selections and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. But Smith's greatness wasn't just about individual awards. He was the defensive cornerstone of a Buffalo Bills team that made 4 straight Super Bowl appearances in the early 90s. In Super Bowl 25, Smith delivered one of the game's biggest plays, sacking Giants quarterback Jeff Hostetler in the end zone for a safety. The Bills fell just short, but Smith's dominance was on full display. His greatest asset was his longevity and consistency. Even into his late 30s, Smith was still terrorizing quarterbacks and setting the gold standard for defensive excellence. That's what's earned him this spot on the list.
I ain't gonna lie, bro.
Setting the gold
a defensive lineman that just wear hand tape and no gloves gotta be a menace.
Standard for defensive excellence.
Gotta be a menace.
That's what's earned him
they
this
not
spot
to be trusted
on the list.
and not
no matter
to be
how much he
with.
slowed
Real
down
shit, bro.
and how much film teams had
Real
him,
shit.
nobody could stop him. Now, before we get to the top pick, let's give some respect to a player who defined
what the
toughness
fuck is
in
that
the early
helmet?
NFL. Chuck Bednarik. Drafted number 1 overall in 1949, Bednarik was a two-way legend for the Philadelphia Eagles, playing both center and linebacker. They called him Concrete Charlie, and for a good reason. His bone-crunching hits were the stuff of nightmares, and his devastating tackle on Frank Gifford remains one of the most iconic moments in NFL history. A 6-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time NFL champion, and a Hall of Famer, Bednarik was a beast and was feared by every player. But the NFL was so different back then, and many of his stats weren't even recorded. So it was hard to justify putting him on this list. We started this list with a Manning, so it's only right we end with one too. The greatest first overall pick of all time is quarterback Peyton Manning. But after being selected first in the 1998 draft by the Indianapolis Colts, Manning didn't exactly hit the ground running. In his rookie season, he threw 28 interceptions, a rookie record that still stands to this day. But rather than let that
I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't think nobody breaking that. 28 picks. Like, even though this is more like more of a passing league now, 28 picks is kind of crazy. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't think nobody breaking that shit. You would have been benched before you hit 28
and by his second season, it was clear the Colts had their franchise quarterback.
I keep saying keep it a buck, right? I feel like I'm saying that shit
a decade
like every 5 sentences.
Manning was the engine of the Colts' high-powered offense, leading them to 11 playoff appearances, 8 division titles, and a victory in Super Bowl 41, where he earned Super Bowl MVP honors, finally silencing critics who questioned his ability to win on the big stage. But then in 2011, everything changed. Manning was sidelined by a severe neck injury.
Oh, shit!
2011, everything changed. Manning was...
That nigga got bent backwards. Pause. Oh my gosh.
By a severe neck
injury. I know that shit
required multiple surgeries. He missed the entire season. And at
I'm not surprised,
old,
nigga.
His future in the NFL looked bleak. Rumors swirled that he might never play again, as the Colts, facing a rebuild, made the heartbreaking decision to release him after 14 seasons. Many thought that was the end of the road for him.
And then he went ahead and won a ring with Denver.
Instead, he signed with the Denver Broncos for his return in 2012. When
he only played for 2 teams and won a ring with both of them.
Pressure was on.
That's crazy.
He immediately looked like his old self.
You ain't gotta show
the
that
Broncos
shit.
to
Come
a 13-3 record. By 2013, he had one of the most dominant seasons ever, setting NFL records for passing touchdowns with 55 and passing yards with 5,477. Manning's time in Denver ended with a
Peyton
and passing yards.
That season was crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. I can see somebody breaking like the passing touchdown record, because like you can easily get passing touchdowns like on like a little pop jet touch pass or something like that. But like 5,400 yards, if anybody can do it, I'm gonna keep it a buck. It might be Joe Burrow, unless his offensive line is just dog shit. Cause he had what 5,000 yards last year. With Chase and T. Higgins fully healthy, he could probably do that.
1,477. Manning's time in Denver ended with a victory in Super Bowl 50, where he capped off his career with his second championship. Shortly after that Super Bowl victory, Peyton Manning announced his retirement from the NFL with legendary career stats: 71,940 passing yards, 539 touchdowns, 5 MVP awards, and 2 Super Bowl titles, making him not just the greatest #1 pick of all time, but one of the greatest players the NFL has ever seen. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz, subscribe, and check out some of our other content right here.
Hey man, shit, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL draft videos you want to react to. Without further ado, I'm out.
I'ma make them feel me, make them people when they show me. And if you don't know me, I'ma make sure that you know me. I hate to say it, but I really think I'm broke. But I know I'm chosen, I really know I'm chosen. I know I'm chosen. I was just lost a year ago, but now I'm focused. When good at sports, this microphone can be my trophy. Not taking drugs, I found a better way of coping.